Hi, and welcome to Follow's weekly message podcast. Thanks for joining us. We hope this message inspires you and helps you to follow Jesus in your community for his glory. Here's the message.
Today we're in Daniel chapter 2 in our current series called Life in Babylon. Wally's going to come and share in a moment, but I'm going to read some of the Bible reading. We're not going to read the whole chapter because it's fairly long, so I'll just read a portion, and we're going to start at verse 1 through to verse 7. In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, I have had a dream that troubles me and I want to know what it means. Then the astrologers answered the king, May the king live forever. Tell your servants the dream and we will interpret it. The king replied to the astrologers, This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me, no pressure, but if you tell me the dream and explain it, you'll receive from me great gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me. Once more they replied, Let the king tell his servants the dream and we will interpret it. We're going to go down to the next part, which is verse 24. And it says, Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him. Verse 31 to 45. Your majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue. This is his dream. It was awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, not by human hands, but it struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream, and now we'll interpret it to the king. Your majesty, you are the king of kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands he's placed all mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds in the sky. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. After you, another kingdom will arise inferior to yours. Next, the third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. And finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all the kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of the mountain, but not by human hands, a rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. Let's give Wally a warm welcome as he comes up to share this morning.
Good morning. What a wonderful morning, hey? What a wonderful celebration. An absolute privilege to be here sharing. In the midst of all of this, we celebrate lives changed. We celebrate a kingdom of God that will continue on. What a wonderful morning. Today we'll continue on with a series that Pastor Luke began last week. It's called and titled Life in Babylon. Remember, Babylon represents a culture or a nation opposed to the values of the kingdom. And this is our experience here in Australia. We see our culture, we see the world in which we live, seeming to move more and more away from the values of the kingdom of God. It's antichrist, not in alignment with the good news of Jesus. Now, when I was studying, I did a number of different jobs to pay the bills and to get through my studies. I used to do a lot of work for my dad, who's over here, but in an accident he cut his thumb off, and there went his thumb and my employment. also his for a season. And so I got a job. My uncle owned a factory and they actually made SAS racing seats. Anyone know? Yeah, going way back. They used to be a big thing. And I was put in the factory there helping to make them. And in my time there, they got this new machine called a plastic injection molding machine. What my job was to do is it had this hopper on this machine and you had to fill it with these little plastic pellets. You could put whatever colour you wanted in there. You just put them in. And what the machine did with pressure and heat is it spat out little plastic parts. It would turn that plastic into whatever design, the engineers made. And so you put in little plastic bits and it would spit out a part. In my case, it was this little frame that went on the seats that allowed the seat belts to go through the seat. It was like one of the racing components of the seat. In a similar fashion, we live in a society that is trying to mould us into a certain way of being. We experience the pressure of our society and our culture. We receive heat from those around us who try to shape us into being a certain way of being. We can all attest to what Pastor Luke shared last week. Our culture places on us the pressure to conform, the temptation to compromise, and the stress of growing opposition to the ways of God. It's a direct quote from our seasoned Pastor Luke right there. You see, this is a driving theme in the book of Daniel. And last week we looked at the idea that Babylon wants to shape us into its image. 2, that we're in Babylon, but we're not of Babylon. And 3, God is with us even while we're in Babylon. What a wonderful truth that God is with us no matter where we are in our faith, whatever place that may be. So today, as we continue this journey looking at chapter 2, there's a question really that stands out for us as we read Daniel. And it is this: how do we today live a life of faith in Jesus in a world that seems to be shifting away from Jesus in our own Babylon? Well, what we find, and here's the answer, we find as we look at the life of Daniel and his companions that they chose to set their eyes on their unchanging eternal God. In the midst of a very uncertain time for them, they are able to have certain faith and certain hope in their unchanging God. That's our theme here. Today we're looking at 2 simple words that you can take. That in Babylon, in the world in which we can live with confident faith, and certain hope. Can you say faith and hope? Awesome. Now go home. You've got it. Now we're going to unpack this a little bit more. Firstly, how do we live in Babylon? With certain faith. Now let's paint the picture here a little bit. King Nebuchadnezzar is in his 2nd year reigning. Not too long after chapter 1, Nebuchadnezzar had gone and had brought back people, the Israelite people, and taken them as slaves. Don't forget that. He takes them captive. And often we read this, we've read it so many times. He takes them as slaves against their will. If they don't go, they will be killed. They're slaves. And so Daniel finds himself in the induction process. The king chooses some of the best men. He inducts them to serve for him. And you're thinking straight away, oh, great, wouldn't that be wonderful, serving the king? Yeah, serving a king who, when he gets angry, says, I will kill you and tear you limb from limb. Imagine going to work every morning. Yeah, talk about walking on eggshells. Yes, he's in the service of the king, but he is still a slave. And Nebuchadnezzar has this dream, and it's an amazing dream. It's one of those dreams, I'm not sure if you've had one, that is beyond a dream. How you have some of those dreams and you wake up going, that was so real. That was more than just bad pizza I had last night. That was something real. And some of us here might even attest to it being vision-like. It may actually be something that God has used to give you words of encouragement or a vision or a picture. And that's what we see here. Nebuchadnezzar has this amazing dream that moves him to the core, but alas, what happens? He forgets it. It's true. Forgets it. He remembers the emotion. He remembers the feeling. He remembers the importance of what this dream had for him. But for the life of him, he can't remember it. So he gathers all the smartest, the wisest people of the land, astrologers and magicians, all these sorcerers, people who are the experts in this other world stuff. Now, just to let you know, this was their world. The people that came, especially in Babylon, we know that they prized dreams heavily, that they gave them great value. They believed that it was a way that the gods, small g, communicated to them. And so any dream that was had, if it was remembered by people of significance, was recorded. And so they quite literally had a library of dreams. So that when someone had a dream, they can go back and look at their references and go, aha, that's this dream, this is what it means. So it's actually quite scientific if you think about it, the way they went about their method. They come to him, the king says this, I had a dream, can't remember it, you have to tell me what the dream is and what it means. If you don't do it, you'll be demoted. No, very, very de-limbed. Your limbs will be torn from your body. Good motivation to get this one right, yeah? And all these people come together, they're putting their minds together and they cannot come up with it. They cannot. And they come to him saying, King, this is unreasonable. How can anyone do what you're asking? There's no human who could do this. Not only that, there's not even the gods could do this. And they don't even live here on earth with us. That's what they say. They give up. And the king is furious. And so he says, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to kill you tomorrow. And Daniel and his men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they all hear this. They're actually labelled, their job description is wise men. Although they weren't in the king's court for this particular time, they've been induced into this realm. This is where they are. Maybe because of their newness, they weren't in this court, but they hear about it. And they hear about it because they're told, guess what? Your job description is connected. You're going to be torn limb from limb. What an induction, hey? First year into the job. The pressure. Daniel very calmly, wisely, we don't even know why. If you read it, it just says what he does is he tells the people in command, go tell the king we just want some more time, okay? Just cool down a little. Myself, my men, we're going to go pray tonight and we'll come back tomorrow. Very calmly does this and they do that. They get together, they pray, maybe first prayer meeting in Babylon, who knows. They pray and God shows Daniel, reveals to him the dream. And then Daniel cracks out in song. Songs always come out of moments of inspiration, don't they? Emotional. That songs just come out with love. How about a song because I'm not being torn limb from limb? That's the song. And it's I was wearing thongs. It's a song of thanks, praising God for who he is. That's the story. But what I love in this is that as you look closely at this, things are not what they seem. If you focus on the characters, there's sort of this presentation of what is, and then the spiritual world, what really is. Think about this. If we're going to look at some of the characters in this unfolding drama, you will notice that King Nebuchadnezzar and the wise men on the surface are all powerful. He's the king. He has all command. He can just say the word and people are killed. And also the leaders and experts of the land. These are the wisest people in the planet here right now, coming towards the king. These are the ones who are ruling, but what are they governed by? Fear. You notice? By position, rulers. In reality, in the spiritual realm, fearful. And then you've got who? Daniel and his wise men who on the surface are slaves. No power whatsoever. Taken from their homeland, told what to eat. Quite literally in chapter 1, but with some negotiations, got to choose some of their own food. Told that they're going to be torn limb from limb if they don't do certain things. Here, these men are complete slaves, and yet what are they governed by? It's our first word, faith. It's interesting. The ruling king is in actual fact a slave to fear, and the slaves are living in faith. See, what we see on the surface is not the reality of the situation, and this is true in our world, and I think we forget this and we need to be reminded of it. What we see is not what is occurring. There's something far deeper, a spiritual reality that we can't see. We look at our political situation and we wonder what's going on. We look at our world, we wonder what's going on, and we ask God, what are you doing? God's at work. We just can't see it. We often look at the lives of people, and social media was mentioned last week. You can go listen to that if you didn't. But one thing social media has done for us is it has enhanced this ability for us to let people think well of us. Have you noticed? You look on Facebook, you look on all these apps, and people present the best versions of themselves, yeah? You don't get up in the morning and go, oh, I look horrible, Snapchat. It's like, nah. There's all these filters. People are making millions of dollars on apps that change the photo for you so you don't actually look the way that you look, but so you can post it and go, oh, yeah, that was just me 2 seconds after I woke up. It's not real. And everyone's presenting this version of themselves, but it doesn't take long. You sit with people and very quickly you learn that under the surface, there's pain, there's hurt, there's confusion. There's people searching for something beyond themselves. So as we look at this, we can relate and say, things are not what they seem. See, Daniel was able to live in this world that he was in by placing his faith in God, and he highlights it in his song. We're not shown at the very beginning why and how he's able to place his faith in God. He just does it. But his song reveals a lot. Have a look at this. You might need to open it up because the text is a little small. Daniel 2 from 19. Praise the name of God forever and ever, for he has all wisdom and power. Try pick out the words, the descriptive words of who God is and how God works. He controls the course of world events. He removes kings and sets up other kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the scholars. He reveals deep and mysterious things and knows what lies hidden in darkness, though he is surrounded by light. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors, for you have given me wisdom and strength. You have told me what we asked of you and revealed to us what the king demanded. We'll come to that. Did you pick all those words out? See, Daniel has faith in that God who knows all things, who is unchanging in a world that seems to just be in chaos. And so for us, we can be reminded of this. Our God is not changing. Our God is not surprised by the situation we find ourselves in. And if we reach out, he hears us and he gives us wisdom and strength to face that situation. It builds faith within us. But then in the New Testament, I love this. This is Daniel, Old Testament. When Jesus came, he also came to encourage us with this truth. John 16:33, I have told you all these things so that you might have peace in me. What things? Jesus has just told them about what's going to happen to him. I'm going to be killed. I'm going to be taken. Told you all of this that you may have peace. The disciples are, what? I'm not feeling the peace right now. Here on earth, you will have many trials and sorrows. Yeah, that's great for peace talk, isn't it? It's not really working. But what's the deciding factor? But take heart because I have overcome the world. So here's an encouragement for us in our life. No matter what happens, the trials and temptations, the persecutions that will come are nothing compared to our God who is unchanging. As we read that, we can place our faith in him. It gives us encouragement. Jesus also said this in Matthew. Don't worry about these things saying, what will we eat, what will we drink, what will we wear? For these things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers, but your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. So seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously. And he will give you everything that you need. Some things that you need? No, everything that you need. So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. You say, yeah, that's true. So don't worry. Jesus shares these things with us so that we don't have to worry when the world seems to be against us. We can put and place our trust in him. You see, in an ever-changing world, we can live in faith, a certain faith. All right, word number 2. Can you remember it? Hope. 4 people do. Great, awesome. First word, we can live in faith. Second word, how do we live in Babylon? With certain hope. The story continues. Okay, so now the dream gets shared of this enormous statue. I love that image of the statue right there. He shares this dream to the king, and of course, there's the head of gold, there's chest and arms made of silver, belly and thighs that were bronze, and legs that were iron. And one thing I will not do today is go through what each one of those means, because chapter 7 starts to do that a little bit more, and we'll get there. And I'm also not going to do it because Daniel doesn't. Daniel simply says one thing as he interprets this dream. Simply says that you, Nebuchadnezzar, are the head of gold, which inspires him to go make a statue in later chapters. But you are that head of gold, and every other kingdom that comes, one after the other, are going to be hit by this enormous rock that's cut from a mountain without human hands, and it will demolish them. It will just destroy them. It will not only put them on the ground, it will then roll over, and all the rock will turn to dust, and a breeze will come and it will blow away, and it'll be as if they were never there. That is your kingdom. Can you imagine being Daniel and sharing that to someone who can tear you limb from limb? Takes courage. Takes courage to get up here to share a testimony. But God is with Daniel, as he was with those who came up here today. And as Daniel shares these things, Nebuchadnezzar doesn't actually get angry. I don't know if it maybe inflates his ego, because he's like, hey, I'm gold. He doesn't get angry. He actually turns around and says, wow, that was the dream. And thank you for the interpretation. Your God is the God above all gods. And he showers him with wealth. He even worships him and worships the true God. And in the midst of this, something that we can place our faith in is this, that we can have hope in God. Because everything else, all earthly kingdoms, are temporary. Whatever we see around us is only going to last for a moment. It's God who appoints kings, each built upon each other, and in our time may be seemingly valuable, but they will ultimately come to an end. John Goldingay says these words in his commentary: when an empire is at the height of its power, it's hard to believe that it could ever fail. However, the vision declares that it can and it will. He also writes, other empires have continued, but they all have feet of clay. So it's a reminder for us that no matter what is built on this earth is temporary. And what is it that destroys the kingdom? It's a stone. Do you know who the stone represents? I'm just going to give it to you today. We don't have time to go into the depths of it. Who do you think? The name above all names, it is Jesus. Jesus is known as the rock, the cornerstone. He's the one that comes. And out of him, a kingdom that will come that will last for all eternity. It will have no end. Jesus is the rock that will come. Supernatural, powerful, eternal. And imagine what these words would have done to Daniel when Daniel saw this vision and saw that God is at work. I'm not sure if Daniel knew it was Jesus, but he knew that God was in control. And as he came to this powerful king, as he stood there, it would have just built up his hope. He's a slave in a place that he has no control over, but he knows that his God, in the end, will reign. Can you imagine the confidence that built up in him? And so for us today, we can have confidence too. You see, Jesus told his disciples when he was here that I'm going to build a place for you. When I go, I'm going to build a heavenly place, and you'll be able to come and be with me there. The disciples said, how do we get there? And Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. If you're here today, I want to encourage you to place your faith in Jesus Christ. If you're here and you don't know him, if you place your faith in him, you can know eternal life into its fullest. And right at the end in Revelation, I love these words, and Daniel is this apocalyptic book, and it goes hand in hand with this book called Revelation. And there's this wonderful picture, one of the greatest pictures of hope for all believers. And I want you to read it with me, because this is for us. We read these words. I'll skip from this bit. That's it. There we go. From chapter 21. This is an image of what? Does anyone know this chapter? Of heaven. Of the eternal kingdom that will be established and that we will be a part of if you place your faith in Jesus Christ. It says this, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The old heaven and the old earth had disappeared. Why? Crushed to dust. And the sea was also gone, and I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven like a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud shout from the throne saying, look, God's home is now among his people. He will live with them, and they will be his people. God himself will be with them. And he will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no more death, or sorrow, or crying, or pain. Could you do with less of those in your life? 3 people are awake. Yes? Yes. All these things are gone for how long? Forever. And the one sitting on the throne said, look, I am making everything new. Here's the encouragement today. That is our destination. That is our hope, to live eternally with God. I will live with my people, he says. So when things are tough, We can have faith, but we have hope. Because this isn't it. This is only part of the journey. There is so much more in store. We can find ourselves in danger of having short, focused faith, only looking at what's here. This helps us to lift our eyes and to see the big picture. So I pray this morning as you go, you may go with your eyes lifted high, with faith and with hope. Sort of like some people who came up this morning, who identified with Christ as they were baptized. They stood up here and said, I don't care what this culture is doing. I don't care how it's trying to mold me. I don't care how it's trying to shape me. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to live my life for Jesus. It's countercultural, radically countercultural to stand up and to do this thing, and it takes courage. And they're going to come now and we're going to pray for them. We're going to bless them and gift them. So put your hands together for them as they come up and as Pastor Luke leads us.
Thanks for joining us for our weekly message. If you live in Melbourne South East, we'd love for you to join us for our Sunday morning service. All the details can be found on our website, follow.church. You can also follow us on social media @Follow Baptist Church.